Hello everyone to Wave 3 of the Mario Kart DLC ranking. I am John Cartwright, and I am joined by the luxurious Ash Paulson.
Luxurious, that's a new one, I'll take it, alright.
Gotta keep out of new words, and we've also got the scrumptious Daniel Albert.
Hello, scrumptious Daniel here.
Ooh, I might be jealous now. I don't know if I'd rather be scrumptious or luxurious. That's a hard choice.
Well, scrumptious implies I want to eat Daniel, so you're safe for now at the very least. But anyway, we've been doing rankings for every wave of Mario Kart DLC, and we're halfway through now. If you look at the Mario Kart's track selection, we are now in the top half. It's a complete line, it's a Tetris. There's only half more left. So, fellas, are you ready to start ranking these tracks?
I'm ready to start yelling at you guys.
I am ready for you both to agree with me in every instance with no argument whatsoever.
Yeah, I'm happy that we're here, Daniel, because every time we've done these, we've only done it twice so far, but the first time you were so offended by our picks, and then with your picks, the comments were offended. So now we're finally together, and we can actually get some definitive results, because that's all that matters.
Now we can offend everyone together, and everyone will be happy.
Heck
exactly.
Yeah. Alright, so our first track, Home Turf for John. This is London Loop. What are we thinking?
I feel bad that we're starting with this and it's your home turf, because I gotta say this is my least favorite track of this wave. It kind of reminds me of Tokyo Blur in the way that it doesn't really stand out in any way, and it just kind of feels like a generic city track. And I mean, I see the London elements, I see them, the double-decker buses, the London Eye, I see them. But the track just doesn't really stand out to me in the same way something like Sydney Sprint does, or Berlin Byways, which we'll talk about later. It's just...
Yeah. It is kind of snooze cruise, isn't it? There's nothing really special about it. It's got the scenery, it's got the Shy Guys. Shy Guys are always around London, but apart from that, it's cool seeing the post boxes and the telephone booths, but the actual track itself is very, very dull.
I can't believe we're still putting this in the same breath as courses like Tokyo Blur, which I think is a better course than this one here. And
really?
That New York Minute is worse than this stage, though. So it's somewhere in between of these two.
No way!
I think they're all kind of equally
meh.
They're all just kind of dull.
Because I think at this point, we're getting several city tracks, and they're starting to blend together, and there needs to be something about them that sets them apart, that makes them a little bit more memorable. And you see the scenery in Tokyo Blur, you see the elements you would see at a Japanese sort of highway, and those kind of and those scenic places, things you would see, visual cues. I think they stand out a bit more, but unfortunately, London doesn't really do that as well.
I think it'd be a big improvement if the NPCs had accents like Yoshi. I think that'd make it much better. But instead, there's nothing like that.
I think I gave Tokyo Blur a C when we first, or I would have given Tokyo Blur a C had I been on that discussion, but. That's kind of how I feel about this. Tokyo Blur is a solid C for me, just like London Loop. I don't think it's bad enough to be a D. I just think it's dull, and it's plain, and it's there, and for me, it is a C tier track.
I was kind of thinking D, because I think there's nothing special about this. It's just kind of, I can't think of many redeeming qualities.
Yeah, this one's landed a bit of a C for me for London Loop, unfortunately. I want to like it. It's London, but the elements don't really stand out as much as other courses that we're going to talk about on this list.
Okay. If you guys thinking C, that's fine. But I think everything else on this list doesn't warrant a D in my opinion. So I want to use the entire, the entire list, the entire grouping that we have. But
that's true.
I suppose we have also ranked other courses from other packs.
I can't say that I feel like any of the tracks in this wave are worthy of a D, personally. I think this is the best wave yet.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, there's some bangers in this list, for sure.
When I think of D, I think of tracks like Bone Dry Dunes. Well, that's an F, actually. That's an F. but Mario Circuit 3 from Wave 2, right? That was a D, because it was just so plain, and they didn't update it really in any meaningful way from the SNES version, whereas, London Loop, it's still fun to look at and stuff. It's just not a very memorable track. I just don't think it's, overtly bad.
Well, moving on to the next one then, we have GBA Boo Lake. And it's always cool seeing Game Boy Advance tracks remade, because It's like Super Nintendo. It's taken from an era that couldn't really graphically define itself, but then we get these beautiful HD remakes. And I want to hear your thoughts on these ones on this one first, though.
This track, for the Game Boy Advance tracks, like, there's such a high standard for this when you have the core game and also the original DLC, because you have like Cheese Land and Ribbon Road. There's so much done, not just with the track itself, but also the surrounding elements, and to the point where you don't really recognize it as a Game Boy Advance track anymore. And for here, you can definitely see how there's a bit more of a time crunch, because they threw everything at this stage where let's throw in underwater, let's throw in anti-gravity, let's give it a bunch of elevation to try and make it look as different as possible. And it kind of works, but it's also just a very short track. Like, they try to truncate so much into just a little track, and I don't know if it works as well.
It's interesting you say about like all the anti-grav and everything, because that was a big complaint about the first two waves. Is very few tracks used mechanics that weren't directly from their games. But yeah, we got underwater, we got anti-grav. Like, there's some great elements in here, but it's also got the same problem as the Beanstalk one from the previous wave, in that it's just very, very short.
Oh, Skyguard, in that case, they redesigned it. I don't know if they redesigned Boot Lake. I don't have, like, encyclopedic knowledge of the GBA track layouts, the OG track layouts, but for me, I will say that Boot Lake does a little bit of what I wished Snowland did from the previous wave, whereas it kind of hits a nice middle ground between something like Cheeseland, which is completely redesigned, and then something like Snowland, which was just kind of... It looked really nice, but it was just kind of a flat, dull track otherwise, in my opinion, and you could definitely feel its GBA roots. With Boo Lake, I like that they added underwater to it, and anti-grav, especially underwater. Like, they added something to that track that I think makes sense for it without having to, like, completely overhaul it. And as you said, there was probably a time crunch here, and I like that they added the dynamic underwater areas. So even though it's short, I like what they did here more than what they did with Snowland in the previous wave, and I think I gave Snowland a C, so I feel like this is a solid B for me.
I'm feeling B as well.
Yeah, if you took a steamroller and made this course completely flat, you would get something like the Mario Circuit, because there was no elevation in that whatsoever. I don't know. I played a lot of the Game Boy Advance game back then. Okay. I still feel like I would probably put this a bit of a C compared to everything else, in my opinion. But I mean, it's probably the weakest track for me in a pack of really good tracks. So,
See, for me, I would definitely. I guess I would vote against ranking this lower, but I don't think it's the same tier as London is the thing, though. I think there's a definite gap in quality.
I think it's better than
the
London.
Two. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't argue that they should be standing next to each other.
It's probably the length that's getting me, because this is a really short track. It's like over before it begins.
You can't let length get to you, Daniel.
Well,
oh, man.
You're dealing with a size king over here, so.
Oh man! Remember, guys, I still have a cough that I'm getting over. So unless you want me hacking all over the place during this,
I'm dying as well.
Well, it sounds like we're landing closer to a B then, if John and I are in agreement on this one.
I think so. I think we're overruling this.
B for Boo, then. Go ahead.
Okay, let me get my American accent on.
Oh God!
Rock Mountain, yeehaw!
Oh no! Oh no! Is that what I sound like to you, John? Do I just is that through a filter of everything I say? Just has a yeehaw filter.
Yeah. Hey, John. Hey!
Oh man!
Rock Mountain, whoa!
That sounds more like Sonic. Hey!
I'm concerned.
Oh man! So Rock Mountain. This was not one I expected to come back, I have to say.
I was rather fond of this in Mario Kart 7, to be honest. But coming back, I don't know if it does that many interesting things. They pretty much pulled the exact layout back. Like, we've still got the swooping bit with the glider, we've still got the boulders coming down. It's pretty much exactly like it was in Mario Kart 7.
I love it aesthetically. It's nice to look at. I love the colors. I love the alpine feel. By the way, your name for it, John, the UK name for it, is way better. Alpine Loop, is that it?
It's Alpine Pass.
Alpine Pass. That's way better. Way better than Rock Mountain.
Yeah.
Rock.
Good lord. But yeah, I love it aesthetically. I love the color palette and everything. But I agree. There's just not that much going on. that I don't feel as though I could rank it higher than a B, personally. I think maybe I'd give it a B plus if we were doing pluses and minuses, but it certainly does not rise to the level of an A tier track for me.
Yeah, I think it lands on a B for me as well. This isn't really a track that does anything super different or interesting. I like the part where towards the end, when you're on the glider, you can remain on the glider and you can use the outdraft of the warp pipes to like give your own little shortcut if they're available. But that's probably the most interesting part of this track. Everything else is just kind of like, you go up a mountain where rocks are falling. Like, oh look, there's a rock. There's another rock. Rock Mountain. And then they said.
I do like that if you have enough mushrooms, like you can take a huge shortcut toward the end of the track through the grass and the trees. Like when I was streaming the Wave 3 in our Discord last night, I went from 8th to 2nd just because I had the right amount of mushrooms to cut just a wide swath of the track out and past everybody. Okay. And so I do like that if you have the right items, you can take a huge shortcut, really. But that's not enough to push it to A or anything. I just like that you can do that. But yeah, I think it's a solid B for me.
We need to get some confrontation in here, but yeah, that is definitely a B. This next one, though, I'd say this is Mario Kart Wii's second most iconic track after Coconut Mall, Maple Treeway. This is such a jolly-looking track, and with this entire wave, I think they've done a great job at stepping up their visual game. Like the first ones were kind of underwhelming visually in some ways, but I think all of these look pretty good, including the sort of orangey autumn hue of Maple Treeway.
Oh, I love it.
It looks beautiful in HD.
I love I've always loved Maple Treeway's autumnal look, the fall colors. I'm a big fan of that, just in real life around me. I love the fall season. And yeah, I agree with you, John. Like, visually, this track is as striking as I would have hoped in HD. I heard some complaints about the rearranged music for it. I don't get it. I think it sounds great. It sounds like a Mario Kart 8 version of Maple Treeway. I think it sounds great.
It's got some big band in there.
Yeah, it's got some big band in there, and the track itself remains really fun, really dynamic. And I say this, and you all know, I am not a fan of Mario Kart Wii. It's maybe my least favorite Mario Kart game after Super Circuit. I just was not a fan. But there are certain tracks within it that I still think are great, like Maple Treeway, like Koopa Cave, which I'm still hoping is coming, please. And I think this track stands the test of time. This is a solid A for me. I really like Maple Treeway.
Big fan of Maple Treeway as well. It's like one of those tracks where I wish I could have seen it in not in the muddy graphics that we have for the Wii. I think the color palette of that game kind of brought down a lot of the tracks that we don't have, and now we can actually see it for what they should have been. Even as early as the ones that came back for like Mario Kart 7. Yeah, there's just, they even brought things like the one trick you can do on that one side. They gave anti-gravity, and you could do a trick on that one side where they implemented that everywhere.
I do like they brought that back. Yeah, that was cool.
Coconut Mall was kind of missing that, like the ramp you can do the trick. There's a certain part in that course where you can sort of drift along, and in the Wii game you can go all the way up and do a little trick, but that's been taken out entirely of Coconut Mall. But Maple Treeway maintains it. That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm glad they could implement that. We could expect that more in the future. I think there's another track in this DLC that also does the same thing. But yeah, it's cool that they can reinvent kind of those old mechanics with what they have now with anti-gravity. And it's excited to see more.
I think the thing holding this back from being an S is it doesn't reinvent itself. Like they implement the anti-gravity in a great way to sort of replicate what they've done before. But in terms of new mechanics, like new anti-grav, new glider stuff, new underwater stuff, there's none of that. It's just kind of the raw track as it was. But it helps that it was already a very, very good track. So I think A is the highest it can go. But if this were a Mario Kart Wii tier list, it would probably be S tier in that game.
Oh, I think so. Absolutely.
Yeah. By those game standards, I believe so. Yeah, same here.
I think we'll get some people in the comments offended that we didn't give this an S if we're not giving it an S, because I think a lot of people
Well,
would.
It's not an S. You all just deal with it.
It's just not an S. It might even be an A+, but it's not quite an S for me.
It's a solid A. A for almost.
Wow, we're pretty... I mean, I know we had a slight disagreement on the first two tracks, but by and large, we're pretty much in lockstep so far, which tells me that we're just right. The three of us are the ones who are right out of all six of us. That's just stupid.
People should trust us for every opinion we ever have.
Obviously.
Yeah. This is just like a really solid set of tracks. I think there's very little room for disagreement because they're all just so good.
Agreed. Yeah.
So our next one is Berlin Byways. I quite like this one, actually. I think it's one of the better city tracks. It's very funny. They've got like little silhouettes of Mario and Luigi, just with the words Berlin. I don't know what that's meant to signify. Are they the mascots of Germany now?
I also love the street art that you see, specifically on the third lap of it, because Berlin is known for its street art, and so I think that was a really cool, inclusion that you have this like Nintendo themed street art in the third. I think you can see it in other laps, but it's most prominent on lap 3. And yeah, I really like this track. This is definitely, I think, one of the better real-life city-based tracks, and yeah, I think it's a lot of fun. I love how it changed. I mean, I know all the real-life city tracks change with each lap, but this one feels like it changes a lot, like really meaningfully in kind of like a Sydney Sprint type of way. Mm-hmm. I don't know that it quite rises to the level of Sydney Sprint. I gave that an S, and I still stand by that. I think it's still my favorite city-based or real-life city-based track so far, but this is like an A+ for me. Like, definitely, easily an A. Barely on the edge of S, I think, but not quite there.
Yeah, at this point, as I mentioned before, we have a lot of like real-life city tracks, and now they're really starting to have to count on their unique elements visually and mechanically to stand apart from each other at this point. Because Mario Kart Tour we have like maybe 6 of those at this point now. Mm-hmm. And yeah, Sydney Sprint is probably one of the stronger ones, and I think this one's right below it with its visuals. As you mentioned, like the graffiti that you see in that stretch where there's womps trying to slam down on you.
Oh, so good! I love that.
You can see those there very prominently. There's like a part where towards the beginning you can like slide into the subway car and then out again while it's parked there. Just a lot of little extra parts that you can play with. I love that any of these tracks that they've really gone into the idea of taking the smaller portions of Tour and incorporating them to 3 different laps at each time, which makes it feel like more of a sprint. But yeah, I would say this is probably about an A tier for me as well. I can't say it's any worse or any better than that. It's just a solid A tier for me.
Man, I want some conflict, but I agree. it's a really good track.
It's so funny.
Yeah, there's so little to disagree with there. It's so well done. I love the thwomps. I love just sort of, when they slam down, you get like a little speed boost. It's got that Mario flavor, but still still admiring the parts of the city in a good way. So yeah, there's no disagreement there.
Wow, this is shaping up to be the least combative, I think, Mario Kart DLC discussion yet.
This booster course pack is like a fine wine. It's just getting better as it goes along, and there's less room for argument because Nintendo doesn't want us to fight, I guess. So.
But let's start fighting. Peach Gardens from Mario Kart DS. What a terrible track. D tier. No, it's really good. I like this one a lot.
Yeah. I was like, them's fighting words if you actually meant it, but I knew you didn't. This was always one of my favorite tracks, and those of you who've followed many of our Mario Kart discussions know I have a Mario Kart DS bias. I was a snaking wizard. I was so good at it. And I miss being able to just, dominate online because I was so good at snaking. So I have a bias toward Mario Kart DS. I get why they got rid of it, but I love DS so much, and I love so many of its tracks. I'm still hoping we get Delfino Plaza. I think that would be really cool. I love that track. Peach Gardens was already one of my favorite tracks, and they somehow made it even better. Peach Gardens does the Calamari Desert thing, where it surprises you in the third lap. Well, in Calamari, it's the second lap, but in this track, it's the third lap, and you get to explore a different part of Peach Gardens that you never got to in the original.
Yeah, it's a major surprise too. Like Calamari Desert, I think you can justify like the rails were always part of the track, and it was kind of deflating that you couldn't go on at first, and then just lets you go on. But this just takes you by surprise. It's like, all right, lap 3, you're going the other way this time. I did not see it coming. Daniel and I were streaming together, and we were both just shook when we started.
I thought it was weird. The one thing that threw me off was weird that when you're in the main garden, there's all these topiary of different characters, and then you see Luigi's, which is facing away from you. And I'm like, well, that's weird. Nintendo likes to have all their set pieces pointing at you.
Right.
So I thought it was odd that was like that. But then when you get to the third lap, you explore the garden in reverse. It's like a surprise mirror mode. And then you launch into that garden, and then you can like give Luigi a high five. You can drive through the topiary, by the way. You don't have to like go around them. And
oh, you can? That's so cool. I didn't know that.
You can like just breathe. It's probably not ideal. You slow down a little bit, but you can like glide right through them. And I thought that was really cool. Like that does. Calamari Desert was like an S tier because of what it did and how it changed the whole mechanic and how it incorporated ideas from Mario Kart 8 in that way. So I want to put this up fairly high as well because it changed the course and for the better. It took an idea that's already such a very well themed idea in the world of the Mushroom Kingdom, like Peach's Castle. Of course, it has a garden, and made a whole track out of it. But also, you're exploring it in 2 different ways, and it feels like you're being like a little bad that you're just going through the track in a way you're not supposed to, and that's always kind of exciting.
It's
so
naughty.
I put that really highly.
Well, I was saying when I was streaming in the server last night, Daniel, I was saying I felt like our good friend She Says. I felt like I was breaking boundaries and exploring a part of Peach Gardens that I wasn't supposed to. It was really cool, yeah.
If I had one tiny complaint, I think the wider tracks make it harder for the chain chomps to hit you. They're not as much of a threat this time. But I don't think I care that much, though.
Yeah, same. I mean, it sounds like we're all in agreement again. I think a lot of people might... Or maybe I'm wrong, but like I feel like some might feel S is too high for Peach Gardens, but not me. This is an easy S for me. Like, this is one of my favorite tracks in this wave. Yeah, I'd say this is an S for me. Easy A for sure, but yeah.
Where would you put it, John?
I was waiting for you to chime in there, Daniel, because I don't know. I don't want to crush Ash's dreams. Ash is like, this is my baby. I've cherished it since the day I was born. Mario Kart DS was my everything.
No. It's okay. You know what? Save that for Airship Fortress, because if Airship Fortress does make it in, I will accept nothing less than an S from every single one of you. So
I'm going to find everything that's wrong with that and bring it down for as much as I can.
Nice.
We're going to analyze that one.
You know, I guess changing lap 3 does make it interesting, but I don't know if it's better than Maple Treeway.
For shame. Shame!
I might say A, but Daniel can still save you by going S if he wants to.
I believe another one deserves S, and this is the A tier for this list. So Peach Gardens would be an A tier.
I believe another one deserves S too. There are 2 S tier tracks in this wave, in my opinion, but that's okay. You know, you all have to be wrong sometimes. I understand. It's okay. It's cool. It's cool.
Well, after that, let's go on to the true meaning of Christmas, which is Merry Mountain, a brand new track from Mario Kart Tour that I've never played before. Never played these other city ones either.
Yeah.
But it's interesting when Mario Kart Tour just does, not like a city-themed track, just does whatever it wants, really. Maybe this is based on the North Pole, but I think it's just sort of a Christmas holiday track. But what a beauty. Like when you're at the top of that mountain, you just see everything, all the neon signs in the background, all the glowing Christmas lights. It looks fantastic.
And I love the purple sky with the pink sunset. It's just like, if we're talking aesthetics alone, this is like an S++++ tier track. Yeah. Easy.
And you've got like the rainbow, like the N64 Rainbow Road train, but all like out in tinsel.
It's a sleigh train. It looks really cool.
The music is great for it. It's appropriately jolly. I really enjoy that about it. It's a very, well, to use one of your favorite words, John, a very cozy track.
It's a very cozy track, yeah.
Yeah, I think
very
it's
festive.
Let down a little bit for me by its relative simplicity when you're actually playing it. There just isn't. It looks awesome, but there isn't that much to it gameplay-wise. It's fun. But it's just, it kind of reminds me of Sky High Sunday, where I love the way it looks, and I love the idea, the theme, but at the end of the day, it's kind of just mostly a loop with a lot of height to it. So, I don't know. I really think this track is fun, but it doesn't stand out to me in a gameplay sense. It only stands out to me aesthetically. So for me, that kind of brings it down to an A, but it's a high A.
See, I'm thinking maybe a B, because it's definitely very good. But from a track design perspective, it's not Peach Gardens. It's not Maple Treeway. Like it's good. It looks great. I think its aesthetic carries it a long way. But its actual track design, yeah, you're right. It is just kind of you go around, you go up a hill, you go down a hill. That's kind of it, isn't it?
It is, for sure. I'm surprised at B, though. That feels a bit low for me. But, I mean, you know, obviously, it's good that we have a little conflict here. Even though you guys are wrong about Peach Gardens, you know, it's okay. No, for me, this is probably an A-, but we're not doing minuses, so I understand if you guys feel like it's B tier for you, but I'd still stick with A for me, personally. It's
mostly aesthetics here where it kind of shines, and there's some variety to the track. Like, there's a little bit of a railway you can balance on at the beginning.
Right.
This is the other course that has a trick where you can, it's kind of like with Maple Treeway, you can go up the side and collect an extra item box and go down. As you go down the hill, on the second lap, there's a glider portion where you can start flying, although it doesn't really do too much. You kind of are forced to land like immediately, so it doesn't really do much to add variety to the track. Honestly, it is kind of reminds me of Sky High Sunday, where it's a very cleverly disguised loop, where there's a lot of things going on with it, but overall the track is kind of on its own a bit basic and not as exciting as some other tracks that we have on here. I would probably put this Merry track at a B tier as well.
Wow. All right.
Well, one final track remains, and that is Mario Kart 7 Rainbow Road. And there are some Mario Kart games where if someone chooses Rainbow Road, you groan. You go, I don't want to play Rainbow Road. But never 3DS Mario Kart 7.
Never.
If that shows up in the roster, you're like, hell yes, we're going to space,
Yep.
we're going to go on the moon. What an awesome Rainbow Road. One of the best in the entire series,
Easily.
in my opinion. Yeah.
Easily one of the best. Could not agree more. What about you, Daniel?
Yeah, this course, I've been wanting this course since DLC was announced, and I'm really glad it came sooner than later. It was introduced in the Mario Kart game that introduced single lap courses with Mario Kart 7, and they took that all the way with Rainbow Road, where you're on the road itself, which is very beautifully designed. I love the way that the road just looks like stars, and as you're driving on it, and you're going around planets. You bounce through different vortexes. You land on the moon, and the music changes a little bit when you land on the moon. It's just very thematically interesting, and it uses a remix from Mario Kart 64. That's so cool.
Yeah, there's very little to dislike about this one. It's not crushingly difficult either. Like some Rainbow Roads are just very tough,
Right.
but this one's just it's not like overly mellow, but it's got that great balance of spectacle, track design, and it's just all in all great. And I love the layers to it. Like at one point you can stay like on the rings of Saturn, or you can go down to the moon.
Yeah.
It's sort of reward. It's like a Sonic game almost, kind of like rewarding your skill to stay on the higher route. But either way, even if you fall to the moon, you're having a good time. You're on the moon. You can do bounces on the craters. It's great.
And I love that there are just chain chomps just kind of floating around just to mess your shit up just in case. It's just, I love everything about this track, and of course they did a great job with the music, kind of rearranging it for Mario Kart 8. I did see, I was checking out Twitter before I had the chance to play the tracks myself. I was just checking out Twitter to see some spicy takes, and someone out there tweeted something to the effect of 3DS Rainbow Road music sucks, LOL. And I'm like, are we listening to the same track? Are you kidding me?
Yeah, burn them.
In what? But in what universe does 3DS Rainbow Road's music suck? Like, what? No way.
I don't know. Like, is it me, or is it a bit more MIDI than I remembered for this track? I think maybe I'm spoiled from the Super Smash Brothers rendition of this track, where it's a lot more.
They didn't.
If it's a bit more grand,
maybe,
but I think they could have did a bit more with big band. It feels more. When I was listening to the trailer, it felt more like MIDI and not as what I remembered. But maybe, I don't know, that may be some perspective that they were having on it, that it could have been better, in my opinion, but it's still, the track itself is still very nice, very atmospheric, and it is an easier one. It doesn't have any crazy turns that you get like in Mario Kart Double Dash, or even like in Mario Kart 8's original Rainbow Road. Those have some really tricky turns. But in this one, despite having no railings, I think it was pretty easy to navigate without being too difficult for newer players too.
I also love how every Rainbow Road has like a distinct rainbow texture. Like this one's like a transparent-looking rainbow, whereas the Super Nintendo one's got like those tiles. N64's got those sort of like neon flashing lights, and then Mario Kart, the actual Mario Kart 8 Rainbow Road sort of got those sort of like realistic-looking kind of tiles and. Yeah, they're all somehow distinct, but this one's got a brilliant transparent flair to it, and I guess brings us to the question now, do we want to change anything with our rankings here?
Well, I guess first we should probably answer the question, do we all agree that this is an S?
That's true, yeah. I can't just assume that we did, but like,
I assume we all agree it's an S.
Yeah.
But was it ever a question?
Yeah, I don't think so. This is an easy S for me.
S for space.
S for space.
There we go.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess one final chance to Peach Gardens and Maple Treeway. Do we want to bump them up, or are they happy being an A?
I'm happy with Maple Treeway being an A. I would bump up Peach Gardens, but that's just me. Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty happy with where we ranked everything other than Peach Gardens. Well, and Merry Mountains. Personally, I'd still bump that up to an A, but I understand. I understand.
Peach Gardens stay. We can bump down Merry Mountain if you want to.
the thing that gets me about Peach Gardens is we all agree it was an easy, like, high A without the change, but then it gets this cool, unexpected change, and yet you guys still say it's an A. I'm like, what? But it's got a cool change to it.
Yeah, it's an A.
Killing me. John, you can save this, man. You can do the right thing. You can save this.
I was going to go the opposite direction and bump things down, because I feel like there is a disparity between some of these courses. And I think London could go to D, and then something else could go to C right now.
Wow, I disagree with London being a D, personally, but if you both feel that way...
disappointing.
I don't know. I think London's a solid C, and there's nothing else in this wave that I would be comfortable naming a C-tier track.
We need to, at some point, do, when this list is completed, a tier list of only the Mario Kart Tour tracks of all the cities. I want to know where we stand with all the cities.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
That'd be fun.
That'll be an interesting one to go back to, because I think we all have some strong opinions on how certain cities are represented and how fun they are to play on. But London Loop, I probably would keep it at a C, because there are there's other city tracks I would probably put lower. But this one I enjoyed enough for what it is.
Stay where you are, London. All right. Well, I think that's probably our ranking of Wave 3.
All right. It'll be interesting to see like how this stacks up to the first two waves, since it's all, the context is different for each discussion because we have different people on each one. So how are these going to stack up to the first two? Yeah, it's going to be really weird. I'm looking forward to it.
Well, this has been a lot of fun, guys. It's always cool getting more content from Mario Kart 8, because it's not just that this is a game from 2014, but Nintendo keep adding features. Like they added the new item, like customization. You can turn off coins. You can make it so it's just blue shells, and they've also changed the balance. Yeah. So like when you get zapped when gliding, you're no longer full. You just keep going.
That's huge. I love that so much.
It's amazing.
Yeah, and another huge thing too is when you get hit, you actually have less stun depending on what cart layout you have. So if you've got like different kind of components, you won't have as much stun lag as if you have like really high N ones, which is crazy. Like that's the kind of change I'd expect for the next Mario Kart. But
that should have been in this from the beginning, to be honest. That should have been something they did from the beginning, and I'm glad they made that change. It's a very good one. It sounds like we all agree, though, in terms of the overall waves themselves. Wave 3 is our favorite so far, followed by Wave 2 and then 1. They're just getting better as they go along.
I think so. The quality, the quality of the actual remakes is the lighting's better, the textures seem better. I'm a happy guy.
I'm looking forward to see what we get beyond this, because I pretty much have all the tracks that I could ask for, but we still have like so many tracks coming to us, and I just want people to know that despite some of these tracks probably not being the best of quality, at least from Wave 1, especially, we're getting tracks that equate to like half of a Mario Kart game. Like 8 tracks is half of Mario Kart 64, for example, and we should appreciate that we're getting these every 3 months. We're getting so many tracks to play on, as if they're a new game altogether. And it's wild that this game is just not going to die.
There are 72 tracks right now in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, which is wild when you think about it. That's a lot of tracks.
Yeah.
And hey, you know what? Rainbow Road finally got its due. It got to come back as DLC, not in Smash, but in Mario Kart. So it still got to come back. Sorry, really quick question. I do want to ask you guys, if you could have, and you already know my answer to this, but if you could pick one track that we don't have yet to be in one of the last 3 waves, what would it be?
I would choose the Toad Factory from Mario Kart Wii.
Ooh,
not because it's necessarily my favourite track, but it's one that's never returned. And I would like to see how they'd update that one.
That's a good one.
I'd like to see the Daisy Cruiser from the GameCube.
Oh, yeah, one of the best.
I really love Daisy Cruiser. And see what they could do to change it up. I wonder if they'll like make a different lap, if they'll change it somehow. I would love to see what they do with that, with the mechanics we have now.
That's such a good one. And you already know, mine's Airship Fortress. May we all get what we want. Hopefully we get all 3 of those tracks in the last 3 waves, but we'll see.
This has been fun as always, but Ash, we have Patreon supporters, don't we?
We do. We have so many Patreon supporters, and we love each and every one of them, and you can become one yourself. Just head over to patreon.com/gvgaming. We offer a wide variety of tiers you can support us at, starting at just $1 a month. And that gets you access to our private Discord community, which is the best damn Discord community, gaming community on the internet. You can also join our live audience for $5 a month, and that lets you hang out with us and chat with us live as we do GVG casts, as we react to things like the Game Awards later today, as we're recording this. So that's a lot of fun. You can play games with any one of us founders of GVG privately every month if you want to do that. Our Fight a Founder tier is very popular. But yeah, check us out. Patreon.com/GVgaming.
Thanks so much, everyone, and may your Mario Kart tier wishes come true. Also, I'll put a link to this in the description below. If you want to show us your own tiers, you can do that yourself. And yeah, thanks so much for watching, everyone, and we will catch you all next time. Bye.
Bye.
We meet again.